Welcome back to the Real Stickman podcast. I'm your
Woohoo.
host, Ben.
And I am one of your other hosts, Jesse.
Made it to episode 3. Doing good.
Woohoo. And just so we're clear, there are only two of us here.
Yup. No confusion this time.
Still funny! Alright, so today we are talking about a film. I've actually mentioned it in our first episode. And Ben, you've been bugging me for a while about us doing this one, so
Yeah,
got
it's a film that we have both seen for once, although Jesse had seen it more recently than me.
yeah, you hadn't seen it for years, actually, right?
Been quite a while.
Right.
But, I guess minor spoilers for the rest of the podcast. It holds up, I think. We watched The Ghost and the Darkness.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, starring
Val Kilmer and Michael
my
Douglas.
blank there.
That's okay. Movie actors' names are always my forte.
Yes, yeah, I don't have that brain for actors' names and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great brain to have. It's so useful at social gatherings. And
I bet you're great at
dinner
parties.
Yeah. Well, I'm great for other reasons. Probably not for my random movie trivia. I actually once chatted up with a girl, and this was back in high school, and my line or way of talking to her was somehow I got into doing an impression of every James Bond actor. I don't know why she tolerated it as long as she did, but it was sort of an awkward first meeting someone, or she found it funny. Either way, it was a good conversation.
I think high school, because you said high school, right, was the key word there.
Yeah, there we go.
Her brain hadn't fully formed, and neither had yours. So
no one's using their full brain in high school.
No, maybe she actually liked it. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Maybe you're more charming than you think.
Well, I don't know. See, a friend actually once told me that, Jess, you're so charming. You give off Ted Bundy vibes.
Oh no!
So it's like really? It's like, oh yeah. It's like, you're so charming. We're kind of suspicious of it. We don't know what to do with it. It's like, okay, he's disarming enough that we're worried for our lives. So take that as you will, folks.
I'll take it under consideration.
Yeah, don't hold it against me if you can. Hey, Zac Efron had Ted Bundy vibes, so there we go.
Right, yes, see?
It's got to work out
Sometimes
somehow.
If you can channel that into your acting and not into your social interactions, it's all the better.
What you doing there, Ben? You eating a granola bar? That's cool. All right, Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah, I think we started with the cast list, but we kind of cut ourselves off there. Yeah, Val Kilmer, as you said.
Yep.
He's the lead. We got Michael Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not familiar with a lot of the other actors, but John Connie,
I think maybe.
Connie? Yeah.
Yeah. There's not a lot of actors who are frontliners in this film, except for Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer, which, I mean, they're both on the poster.
They're the two big stars. Yeah.
Yeah, we just discovered John Connie was actually Black Panther Senior in Black Panther
and
Civil War.
Captain America Civil
War. So that was neat because he's an actor who's a good supporting role in this film, but I had no idea who he was at this point. And we had to look at him, and he was still working until recently. Well, I guess he's still out there.
He's probably still.
It's just his character's dead.
Yeah, that character's not working anymore. But, no, he's still kicking. I realized I'd seen him in a little film called Coriolanus as well.
Right.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those actors who's just been in the background of a lot of stuff for years, I think.
Yeah, and solid performance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good actors that are sort of stuck in that background for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Wilkinson is also one of the other notable names. And for those of you who are Batman fans, he plays Carmine Falcone in Batman Begins.
Okay.
In a long series of sort of small bit parts in British films and the occasional Hollywood film. Like, he was in the Grand Budapest Hotel as old Jude Law's character. Won't get into that too much. He was also a character in The Full Monty, which is one of the more famous British comedies of its era.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of bit parts here and there. You can probably see him as just mostly the authoritarian, uptight British businessman with a disproving look, which is exactly what he plays in this, except he's a little bit more of a jerk. So let's talk briefly about the plot of this here film.
The plot of the film here? Okay.
Yeah.
What is the year? It's 1890...
Somewhere,
798?
yeah, sort of right before the turn of the century, back in the
Right.
height of the British Empire, that sort of era.
And Val Kilmer plays an Irish architect, right?
Yeah, who was also in the
military
army.
architect.
Military
Yes.
architect.
Who is contracted to go and oversee the building of a bridge in Kenya.
To complete a railroad stretching across the breadth of Africa, I think was the plan.
Right, yeah, sorry, it's a railroad bridge, yeah, they need to get it done on time to beat the Germans and the French. So there's a time
Yeah, maybe the
constraint
Belgians
there.
in there as well. Just sort of when everyone was going into Africa and trying to sort of establish their trade and their commerce over everyone else and their claims. Yeah, tumultuous time, definitely, but the main focus of this story isn't really that so much as the adventure of what happens at one
Right.
part of the railroad building.
So he gets there to oversee the creation of this bridge, but then the workers begin to be attacked by lions.
Vicious man-eaters.
Man-eaters, this is an important point, because a lot of wild animals, I won't say most, a lot of wild animals don't care to attack people, especially large groups of people.
Or to eat
But these,
them.
yeah, but these lions seemed really, really keen on it.
And I mentioned it to you, there's a really good survival film with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin called The Edge, which is basically a group of guys crash land their plane in the mountains, and they have to survive and get back. And like most survival films, but this one has a man-eating bear.
Okay.
And so it's a bear that's out of its normal patterns. It's like, a regular wild animal, it'll kill you if you get into its area or threaten it. But these ones, like this man-eating bear, it hunts for partly sport, but also for a desire for human flesh.
Which is kind of what these lions do too. Like they kill more than they need to live.
Yes.
You see that in the film. They're almost doing it for sport. The lions take on almost like a demonic presence. They're not.
They're
They're
seen
not
as
just
like
lions.
evil, or are these spiritual? And that's even where the title of the film comes from, is the two lions are dubbed the Ghost and the Darkness.
Right. That is, yeah. The name of the film comes from the lions themselves, which I believe were maybe real name. Like this is based on a
it's
true story.
Based on a true story at Savo in Kenya. And the two lions were killed by Colonel Patterson, and I think they were named that. I think they also had a strong spiritual presence as like unleashed demons or gods.
I think so.
To the local peoples, which is an aspect that they sort of incorporate into this film. Not like crazy amounts of digital effects or anything like that, but sort of an overarching presence of fear and evil.
It's a lot of clever camera work and excellent music used to build an atmosphere of fear and
Yeah, totally, an atmosphere. That's a good word.
an unnatural presence, right? Yeah. Which it could be debated by the end of the film, if the lions were supernatural or even more intelligent than normal or not. It could just be fear built up in the minds of the people, but that's the thought's always there in the back of your mind. Like, what if this is something a little more?
And why can't they kill them?
Yeah. So just to finish the synopsis here, he has to go about hunting these lions to protect the workers and make sure the train track gets built on time. And at some point, Michael Douglas's character is recruited by I think it's one of the other workers there to come and assist.
Yeah,
The lions.
John Connie, who is basically the foreman for this giant group of workers who come from all different nations that were brought together to sort of build this bridge. And he knew him, and Michael Douglas is like this big hunter kind of a thing.
Big game hunter, and quite a name behind him. So they figured he could help. So.
His best line, "I am the devil," with his little bit of a southern accent there.
Yeah, his let's delve into the performances then a little bit here. Michael Douglas is interesting in this film. I personally enjoy Michael Douglas as an actor.
I have mixed feelings about him, but I understand him as a good actor.
That's fair. Yeah.
He's
and
not Kirk.
he's
Kirk was great in pretty much anything. Well,
I don't know a
but
lot about Kirk Douglas.
Kirk
so,
probably also was a slightly more one-dimensional actor.
Okay.
but he was more likable on screen, I thought.
I find Michael Douglas very likable, even when he's playing skeevy, gross characters. He's
Which is most of the time.
Which is a lot of the time, yeah. But in this film, he does play a good guy. He's kind of got a like my way or the highway kind of attitude. But he's on the side of good. He's a good man who helps those around him and hunts the lions and stuff, but his accent's a little interesting.
Yeah, so he's supposed to be from the southern United States, no specific area.
All we know is that he was a soldier in the Civil War.
Yeah,
yeah,
on the Confederate side.
So he would have been from the South, yeah. But yeah, he goes in and out of the accent a bit throughout the film.
It's like key moments where he's saying something big and meaningful. He'll say it in a southern accent, and then any other time that he's walking around and talking, it's like boom, it's gone.
It's just Michael Douglas.
I actually think a performance that really shined in this film was Val Kilmer's teeth.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. They are huge and unnaturally white. Like throughout the whole film. I was like, wow, that man's got big white teeth.
He did look a little bit like a chipmunk from time to time. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
But it's like, where's the dental ad from back then? Or it's like, was he the man who also invented like toothpaste? But he actually, like, his Irish accent is awful and barely there as well.
His accent is not good. However, I tend to let a lot of that stuff slide when I'm watching a film, and accent aside, his performance is pretty damn good, I think.
He did a very good job. I would agree there. He was likable. You could sort of see the fear in him. Like, any of the close-ups where his eyes were just sort of staring, or when he made contact with the lions, like, you could see the fear and everything that was going on very clearly. Mm-hmm. So his internal work was great. His line delivery was good. So you bought him as the guy in this world, if not being Irish.
Yeah. I again, he seemed more at points American to me, but that aside, he seemed appropriate for the time period. Like from a military background, like his character was. He had the fear, but the courage at times too, and the commanding presence because he was leading the building of the bridge. He kind of covered a lot of range there, and all came from some core understanding of the character. I think he liked this role.
Yeah. There was something in like the Wikipedia page about him being very dedicated to it, despite having a brutal time coming off of a messy divorce and whatnot.
Yeah, I remember reading that too. He kind of came from off of like a rough shoot and some personal problems, but he specifically wanted to be on this film
And gave his heart and soul to it.
Yeah, and the studios were like, hell yeah.
We've got a name actor in our movie. We're greenlit.
Biggest stars at the time, and he was willing to do it. I mean, he got paid, but basically as a passion project, and I think he gave it his all.
Yeah, that was the thing I noticed during the film is how much the actors looked like they were genuinely sweating.
Oh yeah, well they did actually film in
South Africa.
I guess they didn't film in Kenya, but yeah, South Africa, which is still pretty hot.
Yeah, I mean I haven't been, but I assume.
And yeah, they were out there in the sun. Actually, speaking of the location and the sets, though, we'll talk about the sets for a second because they're.
Well, let me just hit on one more thing for cast.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say too much, but if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, see if you can spot a prominent character from the Two Towers in this film.
I hate it when you do this kind of thing. He does this to me all the time, and I'm like, I don't see him. Hopefully, you guys got better eyes than I do.
Who is this?
I'm an idiot.
Can you see him? Can you guess? I mean, try not. If you end up watching the movie, just for fun, don't Google the cast. Don't Google who the actors are, and just see if you can spot it. Think Lord of the Rings. Think Two Towers. Also, Return of the King. Boom. All right.
There you go. You got your homework now. So
yeah. Be free. Go get your A+, people. And no dessert if you don't do your homework. I don't know why your parents are suddenly Sean Connery, but whatever.
It's scarier that way.
I'd be scared of my dad if he was Sean Connery. Dad, are you a good actor or are you not? I don't understand. But you were mentioning the sets.
Sets, yeah. We both kind of marveled at the set. Like there's this big framework that they would build to put a railway bridge on, because you need kind of a framework just in order to have the workers get up to where you can build a bridge and stuff. There's a lot of architecture goes into just building a bridge.
Mm-hmm. And they're laying rail at the same
Yeah,
time.
big steel rails and stuff, and they built all of that. Like it's all real. There's probably hundreds, like at least a couple hundred maybe, like extras.
Extras and actors. Oh
And
yeah,
actors.
I'd say
Yeah,
at least a couple hundred.
and all the tents they had, and the couple of wooden buildings where the hospital was and stuff, and like it's all real, and it's all seemingly like as you would have seen at the time. Like it's
This is predominant use of CGI in films.
yeah, there's very little CGI in this film.
Yeah, just a couple of shots for the lion attacks. Well done, I would say. Even by modern standards, it all holds up
Yeah.
very well.
I think it kind of benefits from not being too large. You kind of always get a sense that there's a couple of buildings and there's the location where they're building the actual bridge. You can kind of always place yourself within the camp they're at. It's a
Yeah.
nice, beautiful, big set, but it's not like multiple locations and all kinds of stuff. You always know where you are.
Yeah, and that's a neat, nice thing, and that's sort of a common thing with films, predominantly before large CGI sprawling mechas or even these billion-dollar films. Is the sets are smaller and they do use a lot of tricks to make them look bigger.
Right. And they had to reuse things or write scenes that took place in the same places.
Right, like even just an example from a TV show like Star Trek, it always had those corridors that the crew would walk down.
Yeah.
They're curved, so that you never see the ends of the hallways, and that they can reuse the same hallways over and over again.
Movie magic, folks.
The magic of the box. Just don't snap the rabbit ears. Yeah.
Getting a little more into the meat of the film here, but still talking about the sets and the locations.
And it's all on location. Like it's not in Kenya, but it's all outdoors in this one stretch of South Africa.
Yeah, there's very few scenes, like maybe from the early part of the film, that maybe were shot on a studio. The rest is all in Africa, as far as we could tell.
Like there's the interior of the hospital, but pretty much everything else, I think, is all outside.
Yeah.
And the locomotives that they bring in, like that couldn't have been cheap.
No, they actually had like moving locomotives. They might have been like something that looked like a locomotive that they were rolling on, or maybe it was a real locomotive. I don't know.
I bet it was.
They were riding the train at the beginning. I guess that was probably a real train.
Oh, definitely. And there's there was a wooden bench on the front of the train, which I thought was actually a really neat detail. And the main character sat on it his first time into Africa, and that was a moment for the cinematography to shine and to just show you the beauty of the African landscape and the wildlife. And I love that golden hour that films often do, where the sun is either rising or setting and everything's just bathed in this wonderful light. It really makes you fall in love with the land that they're introducing you to right before they make it this terrifying thing. They often use the imagery of fields of wheat. And if you're like a Gladiator fan, you think fields of wheat, and you're like, oh, this is heaven. But
not how they're used in this film.
No, right off the bat. Actually, at the very start of the movie, there's this ominous tone and music cue showing you this field of wheat. And it's like, because lions, this is their natural habitat. This is where they hunt. It's like there is a chance of the wildlife coming at you from any direction.
Yeah, and that kind of carries on through the whole film, right? Like, because there's always these tall grasses there, or there's one scene where they go into the jungle, and it's different. It's more shaded, but it's still during the daylight. Something could be hiding behind a tree. It's that idea of like terror lurking in the daylight is pretty interesting. It's an interesting mix of genres, I found.
Yeah. Go on a little bit about that.
Okay, yeah. On the one hand, it's a thriller, and it's not like a super scary thriller. It's not like really terrifying stuff, but it's well done. There's actual tension being actual tension being created. You're never quite sure when the lions are going to attack. But on the other hand, it's sort of like a historical epic, not epic in like the large like scale battles kind of sense, but it's historical drama is maybe more the right word. So there's like these strange moments of downtime where they're talking about the nature of the world at the time, or character dramas and stuff that it builds the characters really well, but I feel like there's almost two movies in here.
And that I don't quite agree with. I think that's just a matter of finding a different definition to use. rather than like the screenwriter himself, William Goldman, who did The Princess Bride, among other great films. He wrote this film, and he described it when he pitched it to the studios as Lawrence of Arabia meets Jaws.
Oh.
Which is kind of how you described it just now, as being the thriller meets the historical epic.
Yeah.
But for me, I can see that sort of the two blending into their own sort of thing of being, it's an adventure movie. So it can be in an exotic location, it can be in a different time, and it can have these different historical aspects to it. But at the same time, play on these themes of a creature stalking you like a monster, or facing this horror at the same time.
Okay. And
So,
I
yeah.
don't disagree, actually. I think the film does work, and as I said, I feel like there's more two distinct parts, but they do come together well. But yeah, that classification of it being an adventure film actually really works. You're right. Like, because maybe people try to pigeonhole films a little too much. Like, oh, you're a horror movie. You're just a horror movie. Why can't it have tension and drama and
Or humor or something.
yeah?
That actually makes me think, like, we have genre films are a big thing. And we quickly assign films to genres, but some of the best genre films over time, once the genre wears out, are the ones that reinvent the genre.
They didn't
Or
just take up
incorporate new
that
things.
existing torch. They kind of made their own new torch. That analogy
Yeah.
got away from me.
But like I get what you're saying, but like like genres were created by a set number of movies being similar with certain characteristics. The Western was created by all of these different Westerns being made, like the Western genre and the popularity of it. And then Sergio Leone reinvented it with his The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and for a few dollars more, making it sort of an anti-hero and sort of the bleak outlook of it. But now it's part of the Western genre. We just now sort of have a different perspective of what the Western genre can be.
Yeah.
Like this film, in a similar vein, could be seen as like a historical epic, but it doesn't quite fit there. And it could be a thriller, but it's got these historical parts to it.
Yeah.
A good film, I think, can transcend a genre or blend a few genres in a good way.
So yeah, I don't know. In researching this film a little bit, I discovered that it didn't have a great critical reception, which I was a little puzzled by. And all I can think is thinking back to what I thought about there being two types of film in here. People went in expecting it to be more of a thriller or more of a historical drama.
Maybe the historical drama, definitely, because like a thing you kept mentioning is how people didn't like the attempt at, or the underlying sort of feeling of the supernaturalness of the lions.
Yeah, apparently that was a bit of a sticking point for some critics at the time, and I don't know. I got to the end of the film and I didn't buy that as a problem.
No.
I think it gracefully weaves between like it just being, there's a certain level of like folklore that comes up in an idea from an animal attack, right? Stories are built up around an animal. That's kind of what was being done there. The way that people talk in the film about them has a supernatural element, but I don't think it's ever directly implied by the film that the lions are ghosts.
Now
or
you're talking about
darkness.
them like they're ghosts.
Yeah,
It's pulling you in, Ben.
I think it has a little bit to do with controlling your fear and seeing things for what they really are a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I think it really underscores what fear itself can do.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
at the start, there was a lion, and it attacks some people, and then Patterson shoots it and kills it.
Right. So they
And
kill,
then it's like, oh, the lion's defeated. Well, that was easy. Look at Patterson. Look at how great Val Kilmer is. And then more lions show up. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, we're fine. We've dealt with this before. So, like, the fear that they had is defeated, but then he fails to kill them. And then they start killing more and more people in the middle of the night, ripping them from their beds. And then it becomes very firmly entrenched, even actually with the contrast of the earlier lion, which was dispatched as a normal lion,
Yeah.
than the two other ones, which somehow aren't acting like regular lions, which really is like, what's going on here? There's something more to this. It really plays on the feel of the people there.
You're right. That earlier hunting of the first lion, which was, as far as I know, separate from the other two, in like their pack or whatever, really set the stage for like the characters in the film to go, oh, we've got this.
Yeah, that actually makes sense from a filmmaking perspective.
Yeah.
You set the rules of the world. The rules are lions kill people, but lions are killable.
and then you upend those rules entirely to bring up drama and tension.
Well,
You don't upend the rules, but that's
you're not upending the rules, I don't think. But that's part of why the Ghost and the Darkness take on a supernatural element. Is they are not living according to the rules of the universe,
yes,
which we have set up, which is why everyone fears them, and so we understand why everyone fears them, because we have clearly set out rules in this universe as to how things work.
Yeah, the way the film is plotted and progresses really does a good job of getting across the characters' feelings and motivations and the tension. I don't have a lot of problem with that aspect of the film, or the more supernatural elements, because I think they're just part of the story. It's not directly implied that this is a magical tale. That's just part of the story of the.
And
of
it
how
all
these people
serves the
react.
story.
Yeah,
Actually, that's a good thing about this film is I felt like everything was in service to the narrative.
yeah. Oh man, we are going to become broken records.
Well,
Tight film, very tight film.
Well, see, I wouldn't call it as tight
No.
as RoboCop.
No.
Like, not a wasted shot kind of a thing. But I would say that as far as story and pace goes, it was all, for the most part, trotting along to where it was going. Like, there wasn't any necessarily really broken plot threads.
There wasn't any
didn't go anywhere.
subplots that didn't matter. And
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Subplots that didn't matter or didn't go anywhere.
yeah, you're right. That the story always trundled forward.
Another key thing to talk about for this movie, I think, is the soundtrack.
Yeah, because you admit we've discussed the
mentioned
soundtrack
it before.
Yeah,
And you want to talk about music elevating a movie.
yeah.
This is one of them. Like, would you agree with that? Like, because I built it up for you as the music being fantastic.
I gotta say, I don't think I felt it as strongly as you did, but there's definitely scenes, both scary, tension-filled scenes, and more just like look at the beauty of Africa kind of scenes, and it works in both cases. Like the music helps everywhere here.
And I found it incredibly unique of a sound. Like, it's built up like, most typical scores, I guess, but just the instrumentation that Jerry Goldsmith uses and the voices, and this was the sound effect I made before, was I don't know if that's accurate to what the voices are doing, but they're sort of singing that along with these great horn and brass section.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked at some point about two contrasting musical themes. That seems to be a common thing in some movies. Like a victory or a good theme, and then a dark or sad theme.
Yeah, there probably will be more than that usually, but at least you should have two. It's
If you're going by more traditional music, like modern music scoring, it's much more low-key and sort of meant to make you sort of, this is the part where we try to get the heart racing by going dun 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 dun, rather than more of the, big dramatic score of like it's,
you're
it's
right.
much more tied to the breath.
We sort of lost musical theme. Well, I won't say lost. I don't know every film out there, but yeah, the musical themes seem to be a much bigger deal.
Yeah, it's not the style anymore.
No, but yeah, there's very clear, like, at least one theme, maybe two in this film that are reused. And when I say reused, I don't mean in a bad way. Like they're used to indicate something that's happening now, but they're not overbearing about it.
And you have to have a repeat of the themes for there to be an emotional connection to them.
Yeah, I think that's how music gets stuck in your head.
Yeah, well, if you use the music in one scene, like if it was in the peaceful part of the movie at the beginning, and then we don't hear it again until the victory, then suddenly it's like you tie back to those good feelings that you had at the earlier point of the movie as the audience, or that the characters had. So yeah, it's a good film. It's not overly complex in its story or its characters or its structure, which is part of actually what makes it feel kind of wholesome and fun, There's a simplicity to it, but also there's a quality to it. Like, it's not like the Oscar-worthy movie or the big popcorn flick, but I think it's just well-made, good filmmaking at a decent level.
And maybe that's what those critics that I was criticizing earlier were missing, is that this isn't the end-all be-all historical drama of a film. Like, it sets out to do something a little different, a little middle of the road, but it does it very well, and it's I don't know, it's good because of that. It's you finish this movie, you're like, I felt like I watched a good story, a complete story.
Yeah, you walked away satisfied. That was worth the price of admission, and I ate good buttery popcorn and slurped my Pepsi or my Coke. Now I'm gonna go home and brush my teeth and go to bed. Yeah.
Go watch The Ghost in the Darkness. I don't think you'll regret it. It's a good film.
Recommend. You got to recommend from me. And do Do we have a recommend from you, Ben? That's
Oh,
what I
yeah,
was
sorry.
going
No, I already said that. Sorry, my apologies.
for. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Siskel and Ebert, we are not.
we're working on it.
If you could see our thumbs, we would be lifting them up. In at least one, probably more than one.
You couldn't see me, but I had 2 thumbs up, and they were pretty high.
2 digits, or no, more than 1 digit in an upwards direction. And in the grand tradition of our podcast, let's end it off with a apropos quote to send us off. You got one, Ben?
There's a line, it's not really the ending line of the film, but he keeps saying, "I will sort this out."